Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is a meeting of the Laguna Woods City Council, Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, at 12:30 p.m. So I am now calling the meeting to order. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council on item appearing on the agenda are advised to indicate their interest in doing so by submitting a speaker card to city staff or proceeding to the podium one by one at the time an item is considered. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council on items not appearing on this agenda may do so during item 5. Each speaker will have the opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes once per agenda item unless otherwise allowed by the City Council. To ensure each speaker is provided with an uninterrupted opportunity to speak for the full time allotted, members of the City Council and city staff are asked to reserve any responses they wish to make to public comments until after each speaker has completed their comments. Speakers are requested, but not required, to identify themselves both on any speaker card and in comments testimony. Speakers are advised that their names and any information submitted on speaker cards or otherwise provided in writing to the city may be disclosed or become a matter of public record. No speaker should expect privacy of such information. So now we'll have the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Connors. Councilmember Horn.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee.
Here.
Mayor McCary.
Here. And now we'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Lee to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Continuing with the agenda, agenda item 4, there are no presentations of ceremonial matters. Item 5, public comments on non-agenda items. About public comments, this is a time and place for members of the public to address the City Council on items not appearing on this agenda. As a reminder, each speaker will have the opportunity to speak once for up to 3 minutes unless otherwise allowed by the council. To ensure each speaker is provided with an uninterrupted opportunity to speak for the full time allotted, members of the City Council and city staff are asked to reserve any response they wish to make to public comments until after each speaker has completed their comments. Please note that pursuant to the state law, the City Council is unable to take action on items not appearing on this agenda, but may ask clarifying questions of the speaker, engage in brief discussions, refer item to city staff, and/or schedule items for consideration at a future meeting. Do we have any public comments? No public comments. The next item is a city treasurer report. We have no city report. That was at the last meeting. The consent calendar.
Move the consent calendar. A second.
Consent calendar is moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed? Seeing none, the consent calendar is accepted. Public hearings. We have no public hearings. The next item, item 9, City Council business. I will turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you very much. We have, I think, kind of an interesting agenda today. 3 items, the first of which is the pavement management plan. This is a document that the city updates every 2 years, pertains to our roughly 10 centerline miles of pavement. As a reminder, a centerline mile is just the length of the roadway. It doesn't take into account how wide the roadway is, how many lanes, etc. We have 4 public streets in Laguna Woods: El Toro, Moulton, Ridge Route, and Santa Maria. This pavement management plan covers all 4 of those. And then just as a bit of background, we're going to talk about some dollar values today. Our practice for the last several years and our practice looking into the future is to fund the entirety of our pavement management work using SB1 dollars. That is the state's Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017. Those monies, as of December 31st, we had a little over $1.5 million in our special revenue fund for that purpose. We receive new dollars on a regular basis, and so that fund acts to both fund prospective work and also as a bit of a cushion and a contingency for unanticipated or unforeseen pavement management needs. So in Orange County, cities are required to update their pavement management plans every 2 years. That's a requirement under Orange County's Measure M2, which is the half-cent transportation sales tax from which the city of Laguna Woods and all other cities receive a portion of the revenue. The next regular update is required by the end of this fiscal year, so June 30th of 2026. And as in years past, the Measure M2 guidelines are pretty particular about how we have to prepare this analysis. I wanted to highlight two things that we do that's slightly different. Rather than prepare a 7-year pavement management plan, we prepare a 10-year plan. That's just to help us with longer-term budgeting and trying to be a little bit more strategic over a longer time horizon than simply 7 years. It also serves to better align with our 11-year capital improvement plan. And then the city also requires that when the consultant that we retain for this purpose goes out to do field inspections, that they do a minimum sampling of 25% of the roadway segments. The M2 guidelines only require a 10% minimum sampling. So in practice, there's more than 25% because there are different triggers for when an inspection is required in addition to a random sampling. But we've upped that minimum level of analysis just to make sure that there are more eyes on our roadway every 2 years. So there are certain contractors, certain consultants who are qualified to do this work. We contracted this year, as we did last time we updated the plan, with Kimley Horn and Associates, which is an engineering firm, to prepare the updated plan and to do those field inspections. Their work was completed in accordance with M2 guidelines. We talk about this pretty regularly when we talk about pavement work, but there's a PCI, or a pavement condition index, that's assigned to each roadway segment. And then there's a citywide PCI that is kind of like a blended average of the underlying segment PCIs. So what we have on the screen are the last 5 measurement dates. So these are the measurements that were taken every 2 years for the pavement management plan process. Sometimes it looks like February and November were 1 year after the other. It's just a matter of how the actual field inspections fell in the cycle, but these were done for every 2-year update. So you can see that historically we have been in the 80s. There is a more significant, and I hesitate to use the word significant because 81.9 is still a very good citywide PCI, but there was a 6.1 drop in the citywide PCI score this measurement date. Couple of things I want to flag there. There's a memo in your agenda packet from the consultant that expanded a little bit on exactly why that's happening, but essentially, once pavement starts to have structural cracking, the structural cracking can get worse pretty rapidly. It's exacerbated by rainfall. And so nothing that they're seeing out on our roadway is unusual, but it does represent numerically more of a significant drop than we've seen in years past. Having said that, it generally speaking doesn't affect the drive quality. Within these citywide PCI scores, we have some roadway segments that are in the 60s. We are not receiving complaints about the drive quality of those roads that are in the 60s. So I would caution you that this is a numeric exercise, but it doesn't necessarily cleanly correspond to the drive quality out there. We all drive these roads every day. We're familiar with the condition that they're in. I think as important as the quantitative measure is, the qualitative measure is, arguably more important. Having said that, we also look at the median PCI over that 5-year cycle, and that median PCI sits at 86.6, which is a very good citywide PCI measurement. And I would say that in general, our citywide PCI measurements are very, very good compared to many other jurisdictions.
Can I make a
Yeah.
comment? I wonder, could you explain something that I think would be helpful for people who don't know where we get all the money? Some of the money that we get comes from M2, and some of our money comes from the gas tax that is suffering
Yeah.
a decline. Cars are now going greater distance per miles per gallon, and we also have electric cars, and that money has been decreasing. And the reason I'm bringing this up, what you are doing is rather critical, because there could be a major change. There's a major decision talking about miles driven and so forth, and that's a controversy that I'm not really interested in discussing. But I think this plays into, those numbers are really high. Thank God that you're keeping those up there, because the cities that didn't do that, look around us, and I think you can drive on some of their streets, and the roads are very uneven. By you doing this, could you explain that? Because this puts our city in a unique position. What is happening? Thank you.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I mean, I hesitate to compare ourselves to other cities, but citywide PCI scores that are, in the 80s or above, or if you look actually last year or 2023, when our citywide PCI was at 88, that's extremely high. On the funding issue, we have seen swings in monies that we receive specifically for roadway purposes. As Councilmember Moore mentioned, there's changing consumer patterns that affect it. There are economic realities that, the economy declines, people travel more, they consume less gas. That has a spillover effect into what cities receive. And so I think as critical as maintaining good drive quality, it's also, if we can keep our PCI relatively high, in the event that we encounter those types of swings, we're not all of a sudden faced with barely maintained infrastructure or poorly maintained infrastructure that all of a sudden the funding dries up for, right? I mean, it's not by any means the most exciting use of our SB1 monies to spend them on pavement rehab, but the end result of that has been you drive on a Laguna Woods street and it is in very, very good condition, within the city and outside the city. So it is, I hesitate, we're not chasing a number necessarily, but we are chasing a quality of pavement, and we are chasing a reduction in deferred maintenance. And I think these numbers show that, irrespective kind of the 6.1 drop more recently.
When I look at it, I happened to look up even where the money went, because I thought, where's the money going? There's this decreasing amount, and I noticed it said that 80% is spent on the roads anyway. You're not getting it all anyway. That it's nice to have bike lanes, but you have to stop and think. You add a bike lane, and you may be talking, I'm going to put the number, say it's 1,000 people. I doubt it. 1,000 people benefit from the bike lane. And you can say, well, they didn't use their car, but what I generally see are people riding for exercise, and I'm not complaining, but that's money that wasn't used for the road, and we're already facing a decreasing. So we're making choices. That's the way things work. We make choices, but choices mean something goes here, then something's given up over here. So we have to stop and think how those numbers are critical. I really applaud what you're doing, Chris, because we could find ourselves in this terrible position we're seeing other people. Thank you.
Deferred maintenance is
not
a huge
helpful.
problem. And thankfully in this city, we have been really, I think, laser focused on not just pavement, but on the concrete that surrounds it, right? We do a lot of sidewalk work. We do a lot of curb ramp and driveway crossing work. We actually do a lot of landscaping work as well. I mean, all of those things, if you let them fall into a state of neglect or relative disrepair, the cost to improve them goes sky high. There's actually a graph in the pavement management plan that shows you kind of like as pavement declines, the relative effort that's required to bring it back up to an acceptable level. And I think it's safe to say we don't ever want to get to that point, right? We're very fortunate that our lowest scoring roadways are in the 60s, which is still, I mean, that's an acceptable score citywide for some cities, right? That's
I wonder
our
how many
case.
actually measure that.
Well, they all have to if they want Measure to M2 money. So I don't know what their plans look like, but certainly not like this.
I have a question, Chris, and then also Cynthia has a question. When looking at the PCI and how each segment is assigned, does it take into account, like, is it a cumulative number? Does it average Moulton Parkway versus El Toro versus Ridge Route versus?
The citywide PCI includes all of the roadway segments. There's a really specific methodology for how individual segments are measured. You'll see in the pavement plan, if you look at the QAQC portion at the back of it, they go through exactly what they're looking for, the types of conditions that warrant greater reductions in it, and then they also use the historic performance of the roadway to calculate kind of a average rate of deterioration, and they factor that in as well. So there's a lot of different metrics that go in. The field inspection piece is really meant to validate the kind of back-end mathematical assumptions that are being made. But yes, it's all citywide.
Thank you. And then
Yep.
Councilmember Horn.
My question goes back to the beginning, to our center line miles. Is there no part of Via Campo Verde that is a city street? That's a
Correct.
public road?
Yeah.
And on Ridge Route, my understanding is that only like the first 200 feet include lanes that belong to us, and all the rest of the length running along the dog park and everywhere else is not our road. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we have on Ridge Route, principally what we're using is the unbuilt roadway shoulder for the dog park and the walking paths area, sidewalk area. As you get closer to the intersection with Moulton, the road itself is wider, right? And then it narrows down past the self-storage. We have a portion of that wider section before it narrows down. And then more or less, it's just the undeveloped side,
Okay.
the rest of the street.
Any other questions? Okay.
So the other thing I wanted to mention on this slide is, in addition to kind of the normal wear and tear on the roadway, the October 2025 score does not include the work that we just did on Santa Maria. So these inspections were done in October. That Santa Maria work was done this month, I believe. And so in all reality, that 81.9, if the inspections were done today, would be higher. So I just want to kind of note that it's a snapshot of a point in time, right? That's part of why it skews a little bit lower in addition to the wear and tear. So in the plan itself, one of the things that it does is it outlines a scope of work for the city for the next 10 years. This document isn't binding on the city, but it does make suggestions based on the conditions as the consultant sees it. So in the plan, there is a project proposed each year. What I have on the screen here is just next fiscal year's and the next 2-year budget cycle, which is generally how we look at this. Keep in mind that because this is updated every 2 years, the further you get out, it helps staff budget, but it isn't necessarily reflective of like the specific work that's likely to take place during that time. So in the plan itself, the next fiscal year's project, which would take place after July 1st, would be the westbound lanes of El Toro Road, so heading towards Laguna Beach between Moulton Parkway and that signalized intersection at Home Depot and Town Center. The following year, in 27-28, we would do the north and southbound lanes, so both sides of the road on Moulton Parkway between El Toro and Via Campo Verde. And then in 28-29, the second year of the next 2-year budget cycle, we would do the southbound side of Moulton Parkway between Santa Maria and Gate 12. So the total estimated cost for that 3-year segment is just over $1.3 million. Again, we have about 1.5 in the bank, but we get more money every year. So the 1.3 million is not a concern. We definitely have the funds to do that. When we compare this proposed work plan to the current work plan, including what's kind of conceptually budgeted in your budget document, this work plan would allow us to reduce next year's budget by just under 118,000. And then the out years would be a little bit higher based on projects moving around. This, however, is not what we're proposing. This is what's in the plan. We're proposing a slight twist on this, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to show you with what the consultant is recommending. The PCI in October was measured at 81.9. Over the course of 7 years, the PCI would be estimated to return to the mid-80s. So we would get back to the 85.5. Again, updated every 2 years. I wouldn't put a lot of stock into the far out year numbers, but what this shows is a gradual return to the mid-80s, what the pavement management guidelines call very good pavement. What we're recommending is keeping the same sequencing of the projects, but doing the projects proposed for 26-27 and 27-28 together next fiscal year. So we're recommending doing that work on El Toro and then both sides of the street on Moulton between Villa Campo Verde and El Toro as a single project next fiscal year. Advancing that 7-8 project, I think, is important when we look at the scores for these roadway segments. This allows us to really get ahead of the roadway segments that are scoring in the 60s. And then in the out years, we get into the roadway segments in the 70s and the 80s. In 27-28, we'll have to update this plan anyway. So really what this would mean is that between now and the next pavement plan update, you would see the benefit of the Santa Maria work that was just completed, plus those two formerly standalone projects, one on El Toro and one. So your next PCI score would benefit from what would have been 3 projects being accounted for. Under this proposal, there would be no project in 27-28. And then in 28-29, we would pick back up with where the pavement plan recommends the work currently. In all likelihood, when we update the plan in 27-28, the 28-29 plan, or at least the out years from there, will change. But for budgeting purposes, this is what we would make the assumption based on. So the overall estimated cost is still the same. In all likelihood, it would probably be lower because those cost estimates include a certain escalation in cost based on the time value of money. So advancing the 27-28 project 1 year forward will probably bring that cost down a little bit. But as you've seen with our pavement projects and really any capital project, it's anybody's guess when we go out for bids what we end up getting. But still, not estimating an increase in the overall cost. The only real difference is that instead of spending some money in 27-28, we would advance money to 26-27, which would increase our spend by just under $200,000 next fiscal year. But that would be offset by no project in 27-28. So again, we have the money to do this. This is just kind of a escalation of the already recommended work plan. At this point, I'll read the recommended action, but there'll be an opportunity for public comments, then city council discussion. Recommendation would be to adopt a resolution titled "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Laguna Woods, California, concerning the status and update of the pavement management plan for the Measure M2 program, adopting a pavement management plan for fiscal years 2026-27 through 2035-36, and determining that the ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act." And then would be to direct staff to advance the fiscal years 2026-36 pavement management plans proposed project for fiscal year 2027-28 to be completed together with the proposed project for fiscal year 2026-27 in fiscal year 2026-27. With that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor for public comments.
We're now open for public comments. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, public comments are closed. Any council comments?
I move the recommended action.
Moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. So, it's approved. Next item
you.
is item 9.2.
All right, so is really informational. We've agendized it in a way that if you did want to provide any specific city council direction that you could. But really I wanted to provide a progress report of sorts with where we're at with the phase 5 refurbishment and safety project, and then walk you through the proposed floor plan and the renderings that were included in your agenda packet. So, brief background, we have been in this current building since 2001. As you know, the city incorporated in 1999, so there was some interim office space prior to that. City occupied this building in 2001 and then formally acquired the building in 2011. When the city moved into this building, there were tenant improvements done, but it was really minor. There weren't huge, dramatic changes made to the building. It was a lot of carpet, paint. There were a few modifications to floor plans just to divide some office space out, but very minor moving parts. Over the years, we've gradually been making improvements to this. Obviously, we're in phase 5 of what has been a multi-year project at this point. This building itself was constructed in the late 70s. They took occupancy in 1980. Originally constructed as a bank. That's why there's a bank vault behind the wall behind you. A little over 8,000 square feet, over 2 stories. This current project, the phase 5 of the refurbishment and safety project, it's already included in your capital improvement program. And consistent with that, the scope involves remodeling the first floor for reasons that we'll talk about in a moment. Making some improvements to the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, again, primarily focused on the first floor. And then some other work related broadly to accessibility, functionality of the building, safety, and security. We anticipate that this project will require a total budget of just under $3.2 million. That's, again, heavily caveated by what we get when we go out for bids. This is a general fund funded project, and so in your agenda report, we note that the general fund currently has an unassigned general fund balance of about $4.2 million. Now that's in addition to roughly $4.6 million in reserves. So the 4.2 is money in excess of reserves. That's where we would plan to pull the remaining amount of money from. Also importantly, the project is already budgeted for about $1.65 million. That money, phase 5. So there's already about 1.65 set aside. So from that 4.2 million, we would be looking at pulling another 1.5 million from it. So again, this is one of those situations where there certainly is funding to provide for the project. We're going to walk through the floor plan in a moment, but I wanted to hit on the 5, I think, very important floor plan improvements. We wanted to make sure as we approached this project that we were being mindful in equal parts of improving the experience for staff, but also improving the experience for customers. The single biggest impediment to customers comfortably accessing city services is that the entirety of our front counter is a standing height counter. We are proposing to flip that, and the majority of the counter in the new first floor plan is desk height. It is an accessible counter. There's a small exception to that where the cashiering station would still be standing height, but the receptionist counter and all of the workstation windows would be desk height to allow for a seated experience for both staff and customers. In the back of counter area, we have created 8 different staff work areas, a mix of cubicles and hard-walled offices, as well as a single workstation at the counter for our receptionist. That is an increase of 2 hard-walled offices from what we have currently. The city's operations have changed a lot since 2001. We need to create staff workspace where we can, and we need to do what we can to make sure that that is comfortable and functional. And so we've tinkered with the floor plan in a way that allows us to create some additional hard-walled offices, but also improve the workflow, and I know for many of us, very importantly, to remove some of the workstations where staff are basically sitting in walkways right now. So everybody has a separate individual space. As part of this remodel, we are also proposing to convert the vault, the old bank vault, from a record storage room into a conference room. That conference room would have seating for 9, as well as pretty extensive teleconferencing equipment, which we'll show you in a moment. One of the other quirks about the current floor plan is we accept a variety of waste for disposal here. Residents can bring in sharps waste, they can bring in batteries, they can bring in shredding, documents for shredding. Right now, 2 of those 3 services require residents to access areas behind the counter. We're trying to, as part of this remodel, separate those areas so that there are clear public areas and clear private areas.
Are the way I'm reading that they won't be doing their own shredding, is that what you're saying?
They're not doing their own shredding right now. It's a drop-off service, so they put documents in a bin.
I misunderstood it because I thought you had to make an appointment and come in and use it. That's changed.
That changed a couple years ago. They make an appointment, they come in to put the documents in a secure locked box, and then the shredding company picks up the box and shreds it in the parking lot.
How much can you bring in at one time?
Yoli?
They were allowed to bring in 3 large kitchen-sized trash bags, about
Whoa.
13-gallon size.
Thank you.
So quite a bit.
And so we'll show you the drop-off room in a moment, but the idea is to make it more readily accessible for members of the public and to separate it from the staff area. And then thinking way back to when we built the library building here, one of the things that we wanted to eventually get to the point of allowing is for outdoor events or expanded library hours to be able to use the restrooms that are located within City Hall. And so we have, as part of this floor plan, created the ability to lock off those restrooms from the balance of City Hall to allow for that after-hours use of the restrooms. So I want to walk you through the floor plan. Again, this is in your agenda packet, and for anybody at home or in the audience, it's also available on the city's website as part of the agenda packet. To orient you, we are, let me find my cursor there. We are over here where it says council chambers right now. The main entrance to City Hall is where my cursor is here, or where the exhibit is pointing to entry and waiting. So we have a lobby area, dimension different than what we have currently, but to be honest, very comparable to the lobby that we have. We've created 3 different service windows. You can see those where these gray chair icons are. So there's one here, and then there's one around the corner here with a single chair. Reception desk right as you walk in front of you. Over here where you see kind of the wood tone floor and the single chair, this is the waste drop-off services room that would be accessible from the lobby itself.
Where's the elevator?
The elevator is over here.
I can't see.
Sorry, my cursor's
Keep
lagging
moving
a
it.
little
Oh,
bit.
there. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Elevator is in the upper left, as are the restrooms. We're not recommending any serious changes to either of those as part of this project. The restrooms get some new doors and they get some door opening hardware, but the restrooms themselves stay the same. Yeah.
Will the door opening hardware be for like handicap access?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be the kind of like wave to open door hardware. Behind the counter, which is most of what you see with the blue carpet shown, you can see that there are 3 cubicle workstations in the middle, and then there's 4 hard-walled offices on the backside. There's an area for plan storage. That's not for long-term storage. That's really for plans that are in the plan check process. They're eventually digitized, and we don't have the long-term storage need for them, but this is kind of a interim storage solution for them. And then you can see the vault in the upper right corner, which has been converted to a conference room. We have a variety of renderings to show you today. So this is standing in the entryway looking towards the door to the council chambers, these double doors, is just off screen on the right side.
It's the building, wow.
Yes, we did try to mimic the architecture of the building, so we have kind of comparably dimensioned arches. There's heavy use of wood through it, well, quote unquote wood, throughout the project as well. So you can see here the reception window where the receptionist would be available to greet you, the two main service windows to the right of that, and then this additional service window, window 3, off to the side around the corner. We anticipate using service window 3 primarily for the senior mobility program for enrollment purposes. The benefit being there's a solid wall behind that window where the person can stand to take their photo without having to move to another location. Councilmember Connors?
This just came to my mind. It's a little thing. Where it says reception, I realize that our signage on the outside is curved to match the arch. It says city offices and public library. Have you thought about making reception curved to match
I have
that
not,
arch?
but we can definitely kick it around. So the lobby chairs would be to the right, kind of off screen and behind. You'll also see as we click through here that we've built in storage wherever we can. So this brown arched area here, that's all lockable storage for staff.
Is that door looks like it's paneled, is it? It's hard for me to
It's not a
tell.
door. So this is just a wood veneer on cabinets over here. The door into the office area is actually right next to the window here where my cursor is. So we built in storage where we can to try to maximize use of the space. This is another view. The main entrance to City Hall is shown on the left side there. You can see some of the lobby chairs. This gives you a better indication of what the service windows look like. They have the plexiglass barrier in them clipped around from the counter to the top of the arch. These are more intentionally designed for customer use. So you can see there are some metal panels at the bottom that will slide open to allow information to be passed back and forth. And then for after hours, for example, during a vote center use, we would be able to fully secure the counter so that people can't reach through and pull things out. We've also added speakers in the window units as opposed to just the kind of passive openings that exist currently. You also see some hanging light fixtures under each of those arches. Those are meant to really put some light on the counter area and make it easier for people to
Is there
read and see
any
what they're...
space behind on the walls for screens, for not
You'll-
interactive, but for...
Give me a moment.
All
we'll get
right,
there, yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
And you can see at the reception desk what I was talking about with the lower portion for the receptionist and then the higher portion for the cashiering over here. If you look into the background of this image, there's a doorway here where my cursor is. That's the doorway into the waste drop-off room. And then past that, you see the elevator lobby and the door for the stairs. What this isn't showing you, there's obviously this opening here that if we're using the restrooms after hours, we need to be able to secure. So there will be a soffit created above sorry, my cursor's dragging a little. There'll be a soffit created above that entrance with a roll-down metal door that will allow us to secure and lock off the lobby area from that restroom area so that the restrooms are accessible from the outside, but not allowing people to wander through the building. This is an image, again, from the lobby looking towards what are currently double doors. We're planning to take the double doors down to a single door. That's a screen next to it. The idea is that your council portraits would be on the right side of that door as well. This is conceptual rendering, so they're not fully fleshed out, but the idea is that, yes, there'll be a screen that'll be visible for members of the public when they're in the lobby area there as well.
So we could have continuous loop.
Yes, continuous loop content.
And just as Cynthia suggested for the curved reception, could we do it curved over there too? Chambers, wherever you just...
I can definitely make that note. I appreciate the feedback. This is a view looking from the elevator lobby. So the elevator would be to your left, and then that staff door out to the patio would be to your right. In this design, we've had to move things around to accommodate building code requirements. And so the drinking fountain right now, it's moved into this space here. It's right now on the other side of this wall, right? It's more in the lobby area. Moved around and was recessed a bit to be able to get the right turning radiuses there.
Have you increased the height of the ceiling in there?
No, the ceiling's already high in that
Okay,
space.
I just don't recall it being, okay.
It's high, yeah. The ceiling heights in this building vary room to room. There's no real rhyme or reason to them. They're all different as you move around. So this particular area is pretty high. And then you can see the existing kind of opening to the restrooms on the left side there. This is another view of the elevator lobby. So we've already done the elevator improvements. That shows the new stainless steel doors and all of that. And then you're seeing the stairwell door on the left and then the restroom doors on the right
I don't
there.
think that fits. That looks so modern. I don't think it's, to me, it does, it's contrary to what happened to Clubhouse One.
Are we talking the light fixture or the elevator?
No, I don't, to me, it's contrary to the building.
The light fixture? Just making sure we're, okay. I will, these are all approximations of what's
Right.
rendered. So I will note the feedback, but I wouldn't put a ton of weight in
Okay.
it looking identical to that.
All right,
These are
thank you,
conceptual
thank you.
renderings.
Can I ask
I
one
would
more
just say
question?
it's-
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would just say it's kind of glaringly contemporary. And
Okay.
the hanging lights over the customer service stations are more basic.
Right.
Yeah.
And it might be better to go with something like that in this hallway.
Okay.
It's all right.
That's good
It's
feedback.
not the end of the world,
No, that's good feedback though.
but I agree.
And I was just curious if one of those water fountains was accessible for wheelchairs?
Yes, the lower height one. We're going to reuse the same unit that we have. So there's an accessible height one and then a standard height. And there's also a bottle filler in there as well. We're just basically moving it around the corner and recessing it to make it easier to use and not to block a path of travel. This is a view inside as if you're standing where the cubicles will be. So this is looking at the 4 hard-walled offices. The offices are not large. We are constrained by the building that we have, but we have tried to make them feel a little bit larger with the side lights and the top lights facing the interior. 2 of those offices will also have exterior-facing windows. Those are existing windows that'll be kind of shoehorned into the floor plan.
And actual privacy.
And actual privacy. Each office is a little bit different because, again, the dimensions get a little wonky there. But, well, for hard-walled offices, we also have identification for each of the workstations. So each of the offices will have the name and title of the person working in the space as well. This shows those same offices, but this shows that planned storage area. This, if you're familiar with the building, is where the copier is right now. So this is a built-in cabinet, specially dimensioned for the needs of that kind of plan intake and release. The door to the vault is on the right side of this image. This is a view turned around basically from the same perspective. So you're behind the counter right now. You can see the service windows and the reception window at the front in those archways. You can see service window 3, which will primarily be for the senior mobility program. Over here, this is the back side of it and that door into the lobby area. These are the cubicle workstations for our permit technicians. And then you can't really see it here, but there's like half a cubicle approximately for the building inspectors. They're not there full time, but kind of at the end of the day and the beginning of the day to check in and out, store their iPads, those sorts of things. These are the interior workstations. And then this is the vault currently. So this is the vault turned into a conference room. We were able to accommodate seating for 9. Again, the dimensions of the vault are a little peculiar. Seating for 9, 2 options for teleconferencing, either on the short side of the table or the long side of the table.
Oh.
And then we've included some storage in here as well. There's some under-counter trash and recycling containers. There's a small refrigerator. And then you don't see it here, but there's also a bottle filling station built into the wall kind of on that back end. Sherry?
Will the kitchen be left alone?
Yeah, so the break room stays the way that it is. The only thing I believe that changes in the break room is the door going into the break room. But the break room was recently renovated. We don't plan to redo it as a part of this. And so this space becomes a much more functional conference room for us, obviously much larger as well. And I think is a good use of the vault, right? I mentioned in the agenda report that this conference room has 12-foot or 12-inch thick concrete walls on all sides. So it's going to be very quiet inside the
One
conference
should
room.
not overhear another person.
No, I don't think so. So
Question regarding technology.
Yeah.
How did we consider what might be changing?
Yeah, so the technology that's in this room is essentially two versions of the screen that's over here. I believe they're larger actually than the screen, but they're with the built-in Zoom setup, so you'll be able to do audio-video conferencing as you can do from this screen in there as well. We wanted to make sure it was as versatile as possible, so there are obviously a number of scenarios where we can imagine a small group doing the teleconferencing and using the screen on the long wall. But if you have 9 people at that conference table and you want to teleconference them all in, then we'll have the screen on the short wall that will pick up the video from the entire room. So
Great.
the table itself also has outlets and plugs and things built into it. So it's not just a table sitting there. You'll be able to plug things in. We've tried to pay attention to cord management so we don't have cords here, there, and everywhere. So it's all very intentionally built for
Great.
what we're using it for. So those are the renderings and the floor plan. Again, I'm not looking for any specific action today. Your feedback on some of the things as we went through, we'll take it back to the design team and work that out. As far as scheduling where we think we are, we're anticipating that we will receive building plan check approval for the project either later this month or next month, which puts us in a position to solicit bids for construction in April. If that happens, we can imagine, stars aligning, everything comes in, we get bids we can live with. There's a lot of what ifs there, but best case scenario, we come back to you in June with a recommendation to award a construction contract. And then the actual construction we anticipate will be completed within 6 months' time.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, we'll be able to come with a construction contract in June. I would expect that the contractor probably wouldn't start until August or thereabouts. Just kind of lead times and ordering and submittals and things. About a 6-month construction window. During that period of time, we would move some of the downstairs functions upstairs. We would move most of the downstairs functions into this room, and then we would temporarily relocate city council meetings as we've done in the past. In the past, the village was very gracious to allow us to use the community center. We would check on that possibility, but one way or another find a location for us for that period of time. Functionally, it works better to keep staff together on one site. So we'll temporarily move out and then hopefully within 6 months or less be able to move back in. The good thing is we've been doing a lot of the work that would otherwise be a part of this project in the previous phases. We don't, for instance, have door and window replacements on the exterior side of the building to do. We don't have elevator improvements to do. We've done some of the HVAC work in this room. We obviously did some work in this room as well. We did the break room. So we tried to take off some of the bigger rocks and make this more of a tenant improvement type project.
You have drywall removing though?
There will be drywall removal as part of it. There'll
That gives
be,
you- Yeah.
yeah, I mean, honestly, the issue, it's not one big thing, it's a lot of little things. Because we're completely changing the floor plan, there's a lot of individual trades like electricians and plumbers and things that are gonna have to come in to move things around. And it's the kind of work that sometimes one can't start until the other one is done. And so it's just stacking the work. It's not that the work is incredibly complex. There's very little structural work involved. Most of this is like a conventional move in, move out type of improvement. We kept load-bearing walls where they are to avoid that complication as well. So we've done what we can to kind of
Interest rate.
expedite the process. So anyway, that's my update. There's an opportunity for public comments today and then any council discussion.
Okay. Open for public comments? Seeing no public comments are closed. Council comments?
Now, this project only has to do with the downstairs?
Yes. So we are constrained by the building that we have. So as much as I would love to renovate the entire building at the same time, it becomes way too complex to figure out how we're conducting business in the meantime. So the idea, as we've been breaking this into phases, is that phase 5 is the downstairs remodel, and then very likely either phase 6 or phase 7 ends up being the upstairs. But the priority has been getting the downstairs into a better, more workable condition. If we had a community center or senior center or some other building that we could temporarily relocate to, it'd be a different story. But I don't think it makes sense for us to get into renting office space somewhere else and making temporary improvements there to move back here. So this is going to be a game of musical chairs for a while.
So is that a part of the plan that sometime in the future when we finish the downstairs, then we'll move up?
Yeah, we're going to get into that with you when we do the capital improvement planning for the next
It looks
update.
wonderful
Thank
so
you.
far. Yeah, it's great.
Any other?
Yeah. I just wanted to make a comment about the arched windows and doorways. I think there's a very clever arch over the elevator.
Yes.
And I don't think that the service window number 3 has an arch, does it?
It doesn't. It's just a flat
thought it
window.
did.
The service window number 3 is this one over here. That's
Yeah.
just a squared off window. If you look, I think there's a view. Yeah, if you look here, that's just a squared off window here. Is your suggestion that it be arched?
Yeah, maybe you can put something cosmetic on the outside that maybe makes it look like there's an arch over it or something, just something to look at. And the
Okay.
same thing with the entrance to the council chambers. If it could, for example, the wooden storage unit at the end of the hall is arched right there. And it would be interesting if you could echo that look, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I will definitely bring that back to the design team. It's definitely doable. I think that their thought was to not have too many arches.
Yeah, you could overdo it.
But I think the point is well taken, and maybe not for the
Issue too
window.
with changing that to an arch, having had that happen, that it's not a direct transfer that you just round off. There's some
Yeah,
geometry
these arches-
challenges there. Yeah.
These
there's
arches
some-
at the front were designed to mimic the arches on the front windows. So proportionally, they're kind of equivalent to that. But I get the comment. I can definitely have the conversation about whether there's, if not an arch, I think what you're getting at is maybe instead of just a plain door, there's some way to make it a little more interesting.
some panels. It actually would work on that. See that door that you had at the end that I thought had panels on? I couldn't tell because,
Yeah.
but it's kind
This
of
one over here.
shaded. You can actually do that to that, and you can actually do it to that, is add something to kind of soften the doors. They don't look so harsh then.
Yeah.
You don't have to, rounded corners soften things, and the sharp edges, too many angles, just
Yeah.
like too many arches can also bug you if you have too many angles. I'm not an artist, but I've
Yeah.
done enough redoing of houses that I got that one, and I think you could soften that. So
Yeah,
softening with those two.
I think that's fair feedback. I think we
Yeah,
can work
I
something
think you can
out.
do it, and it's
Yeah.
not a costly thing either. It's not even real paneling.
It's all just cosmetic.
MDF or something.
Yep, we can bring that back as well.
Any other council comments?
So thank you for the feedback. So our plan then would be to kind of continue on the path that we're on. As part of the budget adjustments we're going to be bringing to you in the next month or two for the capital program over the next couple of years, we will include the additional allocation of $1.5 million for this project. And then the next time, aside from that budget adjustment, that you'll see this, will likely be when we bring the contract before you to recommend award. And again, fingers crossed, we think good thoughts, that might be June, so, or sometime this summer, hopefully.
No, we don't need an action, just.
No action
Okay.
on it. Yeah, I have your feedback. We'll try to accommodate that how we can. And yeah, I appreciate the time on this today. All right.
Okay. Next item, city council reports and comments.
Nope.
What,
Number
don't we
3.
have 9.3?
Oh, 9.3.
9.3, the big item for today, commercial objective design standards. So I'm going to make some brief comments, and then I'm going to turn it over to our consultants to walk you through this kind of interactive workshop. Just very brief comments. They're going to talk about specifically what we're here working on, but as I've reflected on today's meeting and what we hope to get out of it, this is another opportunity for us to understand what you want to see in the commercial objective design standards document. We have benefited up to this point from public comments, both in writing and then from the community workshop that many of you were able to attend but not participate in. My observation on that community workshop is that those comments were thoughtful, and they were also more or less coalesced around a common direction, which the design team's going to talk you through today. After today's meeting, we are hoping that we have enough input from you to actually start the process of drafting those design standards. They'll go through kind of what the next steps are, but we would envision a public review draft to allow more feedback on it before we bring anything to the City Council for actual consideration of approval. And I wanted to, you're going to go through an exercise today with the consultants where you're going to be asked what you like and dislike about things. And it's going to primarily focus around the 2 design styles that emerged from that community workshop as the most desired or preferential for Laguna Woods. I wanted to emphasize from the start that your feedback should be your feedback. It's okay if the 5 of you don't agree. It's okay if your feedback doesn't neatly align to one of the design styles. I think where we're getting in this process is that we're going to be blending probably 2 design styles into something that is Laguna Woods specific. It's okay if you like 80% of a design style, but you dislike these specific things. Tell us that, and we will tailor it to something that meets your needs. So I don't want you to feel pigeonholed into, I have to pick Mission Revival or Spanish Revival. It is very okay for you to say, I like this, I don't like that. And it's also okay for you all to disagree, because it'll give us a sense of where we're at and where there might be some opportunities to focus our next steps. So Drew and his team are going to walk you through this. Our kind of format for this, they're going to go through their slides, which were included in your agenda packet, with the idea that you could reflect on them ahead of time. They're going to ask for your input at various stages in this. And then after all of that input has been provided, we wanted to provide an opportunity for public comments at that point rather than now, so that they have the benefit of being able to respond to your discussion and your preferences. So we'll provide that opportunity for public comments. And then the only formal direction that we're looking for today, and I'll read it now just to get it out of the way. The second recommendation on the agenda is to waive the provisions set forth in Laguna Woods Municipal Code, Section 3.06.080, subsection C, related to competitive bidding, and authorize the city manager to enter into agreements with JZMK Partners Incorporated to provide professional services related to the preparation and adoption of design standards for new development and redevelopment projects in commercial zoning districts, subject to approval as to form by the city attorney, in an amount not to exceed $80,000, including work already completed or contracted for. We have entered into an agreement with the consultants for basically the work up to and including today, but we intentionally separated that work from the development of the design standards just to make sure that you were satisfied with the approach moving forward. So provided that you are, we would ask that after public comments, you waive those provisions to allow me to expand their scope of work up to $80,000 to finish this project. Other than that, there's no formal direction required here. It's going to be a lot like what we just did with the City Hall refurbishment project, we're looking for your feedback and input, but not necessarily a motion for this or that. Having said that, you want to introduce yourself, Drew, and I'll pull up your slides while you're doing that. I think you might have to slide the...
There we go. How's that? Okay. Thank you so much, honorable council members. It's a pleasure to be before you today. Excited to share kind of our work thus far. So my name's Andrew or Drew Watkins. I'm architect, urban designer, president and partner at JZMK, and I've got Adjourned and Priyamvada here with me, both.
I'm
partners in our
having
office.
trouble hearing.
Sorry, Josh, can you up the mic on the
Yeah, and I
podium?
can talk a little louder as well.
That's okay.
It's green. Oh, there we go.
Thank you, thank you.
That sounds better.
That's better.
So, quick introduction again, maybe just Andrew Watkins, Drew. I'm architect, urban designer at JZMK, partner and president there. And joined with me is Adjourned and Priyamvada, planners in my office. So we've had the real pleasure of getting to know Laguna Woods even deeper. You know, we're local here, but we've certainly gotten to do a deep dive into the city and have explored its many nooks and crannies of commercial properties. So we're going to dive in. Okay, so JZMK is an architecture, urban design, and planning firm, and our kind of mantra is that we listen, we collaborate, we solve, and we create. And we really believe that the design is a collaborative process, and so we really enjoy these community, municipal projects where we get to work with others in really crafting a cohesive vision for a place. Our core values include mutual respect, creative energy, doing the right thing, spirit of partnership, and community service. And I think that kind of ties into that idea of collaboration that we bring to our project work. As we kind of start the design process, we really believe that placemaking is an art. It's really the core of what we do. We're very interested in not just single buildings, but creating places that involve the public realm, that really are very cohesive and are authentic to the places that they're at. So, part of being authentic is listening and understanding what this community wants and what you as a council want. And we believe that if we kind of set those things up right, then the buildings that come from that planning process are successful. And so we are interested in creating the relationships between built form that create strong community and identity. So this is some of our project work. We have work across Southern California, in fact, internationally. And this is a lot of our work that kind of exemplifies this kind of Spanish series of styles that are also exhibited here in Laguna Woods. And so we have projects here in Southern California. We have that project on the upper left is actually in Abu Dhabi.
Really?
The chairman there had a house here in Southern California, loved the style of architecture here, and brought us over to do a golf clubhouse there. And you can also see that there's kind of various scales of architecture, residential and some commercial buildings that are represented in this style. Many of you are probably very familiar with Woodbury up in Irvine. That was a master plan that we worked on and did a lot of the architecture for. So we're here today to talk to you about commercial objective design standards. So what are objective design standards? They are clear, measurable rules that guide how new buildings should look and fit into your community. They cover things like height, roof type, materials, windows, landscaping, and they ensure consistent and predictable decisions. Unlike kind of a subjective review, they don't rely on personal opinions, but they give residents and builders clear expectations, fewer surprises, and kind of a fair approval process while protecting Laguna Woods' character and visual quality. Where we want to embed that into this document so that you have clear standards for everyone to move forward with. So why are we doing this? We want to guide the future construction and renovation of commercial properties within Laguna Woods. This might include businesses, gas stations, office buildings, shopping centers, and we want to create design standards that for characteristics such as accessibility, landscaping, lighting, parking, bicycle and pedestrian, vehicular access, as well as building design characteristics that might include articulation, height, massing, materials, and roof form. And so you'll see some of those words playing through examples of the documents that I'm going to share with you.
One thing I don't see in there, and that is, I noticed it with materials. Immediately, I think of fire, and I don't see that in there. And I would think that would be part of it. Fire resistance or whatever.
Yep. So the building code, your current building code already covers many of those fire resistive characteristics. So what we are trying to do is kind of add on to what your existing building code already has, right? So we're not going to duplicate some of those things. If there are things where we want to go above and beyond what your current code has, we can certainly do that. And
That's
so,
the reason I bring it up, because to me, stucco is preferable to flammable materials. So I guess I'm putting that in my thoughts. Thank you.
Yep. And so we can build some of that in the materials we allow to only allow those more durable, fire resistant.
I'm not trying to steer this totally, but I do want to encourage that we're thinking about that.
Another area where we have that intersection with fire resistance is also on the landscaping side, right? So our design standards will dovetail with the Orange County Fire Authority's landscaping standards for
That brings
fire resistance.
To me,
as
that's
well.
red flags, and I have to tell you why I'm concerned. The fire in the Palisades, there were buildings that had tremendous amount of landscaping. They weren't consumed. There are others that were, and I'm concerned. I'm strongly concerned that I'm listening to people, they're going to say, well, you need to take out all your trees and all your plants, and so everything's going to be cement and non-flammable. I think that would be a total destruction of the community, because trees and plants also offer coolness in the winter, in the summer, when we have tremendous heat. So I want to make sure we're balanced and we're not
And
going.
it's not so much on. I think that we've definitely heard that people want a fullness of landscaping.
Okay, thank you.
So
I
that's
just
the direction
better-
we're going. It's more on individual species and things that are more and less flammable.
Okay,
But no,
thank
we're
you.
not. I do not believe that your landscape standards will end up
We're
causing
not
this to
vulnerable
be
to taking
a
the trees
desert
out.
and
Okay,
rocks.
thank
and,
you.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, good. Appreciate the feedback. Okay, so what properties are affected? I've said that these are commercial objective design standards. I gave you a few examples, but just want to kind of have some clarity. There's no specific project that's under consideration right now. This is a planning document that would apply to, once adopted, would apply to future project proposals. It will also not apply to clubhouses, manors, other properties that are part of Laguna Woods Village, unless those properties are located in a commercial zoning district. So for example, that would be like the Laguna Woods Village Community Center would be an example of something that's on a commercially zoned property. And we'll dive a little bit more into in our analysis of what your commercially zoned properties are in the city. This is also only triggered at a certain point. And so we wanted to give some examples of what are the kind of applicable triggers for when this code would be applicable. First, new development. I think that makes sense. So new ground up development, but also substantial renovations. And that might be, so these are kind of examples of triggers that we could include in the code, but that might be when a structure is demolished or there's a removal of 50% or more of the building that's then reconstructed, right? So that there's kind of a substantial renovation being done could trigger this. It could also be in addition to an existing structure. So maybe it's not being demolished, but maybe there is a certain percentage, say 50%, that's being added on. You might want this code to be triggered. And then another one could be adding upper floors, right? Because if you're kind of substantially changing the height, you might also want this to be a trigger. So I just want to kind of walk you through a little bit of the timeline. We've had a community workshop that was January 26th. I think many of you attended, which was great. And we are now meeting with you. That's our second point there, a city council meeting today. Future deliverables would be, as Chris said, a public review draft. That would be kind of our first release of a draft document. We would have time for people to kind of process that, come before you, get your comments, get public comment on that public review draft, and then provide a final draft based upon those comments. So what does that look like? So here's some examples of some pages that might exist in commercial objective design standards. So one might talk about building modulation, talking about the form of the buildings, creating breaks or differentiation within the facade, especially for larger buildings. Another thing that we're certainly going to talk about is style. That's actually what we're going to focus on today. These examples are Tudor Revival, which is not a style that we would recommend for Laguna Woods, but it is just an example from another city that we brought, and so wanted to provide an example that was a little different. But we often have kind of descriptive imagery that shows examples of what a style is. And then we talk about kind of the certain elements of those styles. So the roof lines, walls and windows, materials and colors. So to your point earlier, this is where we could start to specify more specifics on materials, decorative accents and details. And the way we structure these is we often have some required elements and then we have optional elements. And that provides flexibility. It provides a certain minimum kind of quality, but also allows differentiation within the community. So this is an aerial of the city of Laguna Woods. We are, right there, right at, by your crossroads. When we're looking at the city, there are 3 different commercial zoned typologies. There's community commercial, neighborhood commercial, professional, and administrative office. And most of your commercial properties are this community commercial. You can see that in that darker red. And then there are some professional and administrative, as well as the neighborhood commercial here on the eastern end of El Toro.
Excuse me. There's a dental building in the lower right corner at the corner of Laguna Hills Drive and Paseo de Valencia.
Oh, that's right.
Right here. And there is a little tinge of red down there.
Oh, I see that.
Very tiny.
Just squint a little. Yeah, you got it. And so we did kind of a survey of all of those commercial properties. And so here you can see kind of 7 different styles that we identified. So you do have a lot of Mission Revival, some Spanish Revival. We also included this Spanish Modernist, which is mostly exhibited in churches within your community, though there are a couple commercial buildings by Laguna Hills, one in your city, and then several in Laguna Hills that are also kind of this Spanish Modernist. So we thought that this was an important one to include.
You know what happened there in the 60s? I'm now voicing an opinion, but in the 60s, it was a tremendous creative time for music and clothing and buildings, but it didn't age well. The music lasted, the rest of it looked like crap, and so you wind up with the hyperbolic paraboloid that didn't make it, and these jutting. I know because I have a house with an angle, and it looks so terrible. The only thing you do is hope a tree blocks some of that. It is amazing, isn't it? And and I think it's ironic how some things age well. You may not, and the 60s stuff just didn't. The 70s, in my estimation. It looks very dated. You drive around when you see it, and it just doesn't look right. And yet other lines, even the staters or the one there in the middle, the one on the right is kind of harsh, in the bottom row there. To me, those you can live with that. It's not me. You don't have to like everything, but it kind of looks like it goes together. But you see those jutting things, and particularly the 60s, and a lot of our architecture was designed during that period. Notice how it didn't age well at all. Now, the garden villas look good. Think about it. In our community, what looks good? The garden villa aged well, but look at the like the design on my house, which is kind of stupid. Anyway, there you go. And that's what we're hoping, that it looks, it ages well.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it.
Great. Mediterranean, and then a kind of a Mediterranean revival, which is kind of a variation on that. Mountain Contemporary, which you can see, kind of behind us in the mountain, the Willow Creek Center here. And then we had this contemporary style, which is kind of a catch-all, and not much to say there. So we had a great community meeting about a month ago, and we got some great input, and so just kind of wanted to walk through some of the input we got on those 7 styles, and then just some other general comments. So we certainly heard that there was good support for Mission Revival, also generally supportive of Spanish Revival, opposition to Spanish Modernist, also Mediterranean and Mediterranean Revival did not get quite as much favor. Mountain Contemporary, kind of strong opposition, and then Contemporary, of course, strong opposition. And so that was kind of what we took qualitatively from that session. But I think this is something we certainly want to hear your feedback further on today. Some of the other comments that we got was integrating vegetation and landscape requirements into the objective design standards. And in fact, we usually do include a whole chapter on landscaping, and so can kind of customize that to Laguna Woods here. Interest in increasing shade trees and parking and walkway areas. I think creating more comfortable spaces here in the city. Then kind of high visibility on things like speed bumps or other potential tripping hazards. Providing consistent and visually appealing street lighting, potentially using cool pavements and new parking lots, adding EV charging, kind of being sustainable and thinking forward, and then also just being timely with the implementation of these objective design standards. I think people have been looking for standards like this and want to ensure that future projects that come into the city are of the quality that's expected here. So, from what we heard in the community workshop, Mission Revival seemed to definitely be identified as the preferred primary architectural style, and that's really no surprise. That's very consistent with the kind of original foundings of the city, and is kind of your existing baseline style in kind of our review. Spanish Revival is potentially as kind of a secondary option to that. It's kind of a more ornate version of Mission Revival, exemplified. I think Laguna Hills City Hall does a good job of exemplifying that. And participants did express interest in a blended approach, right? So we could kind of combine these. I think with the size of the city, that could just be a simple way of dealing with the styles, is to use Mission Revival as kind of the base style and have optionality that kind of allows for the expression of Spanish Revival. The alternative styles to these received either opposition or some limited support. So our recommendation would be that we create this Mission Revival kind of base with optionality that would provide for Spanish Revival. And we did want to say there could be an alternative that you create 2 distinct styles, and so somebody picks either Mission Revival or Spanish Revival. Could certainly do that, though they are very similar in their base form. Another alternative could be that you provide some input today that brings in one of the other styles that we saw in the city, or provides a different direction that we would follow. But this would be kind of our basic recommendation.
And I'll just jump in and say that staff shares this recommendation. I think given the finite area in the city devoted to commercial purposes, it makes more sense to us to have a single design aesthetic that we roll out over the entirety of that area, rather than saying this shopping center is going to be Mission Revival, this shopping center is going to be Spanish Revival. So we like the idea of having that single blended style that is based in Mission, but includes some of the Spanish Revival elements. But you certainly can tell us otherwise. I mean, we're prepared to develop standalone styles if you want to give either the option, or if you want to say this shopping center needs to be this shopping center needs to be that. The world is your oyster on this subject. You can give us any type of direction that you want. But I think from staff's perspective, the simplest path forward is to settle on a unified style that people want to see. And then over time, it materializes across the entirety of your commercial sector. So anyway, sorry, just jumping in.
So to kind of work through some of those nuances and preferences that you may have, what we want to do is kind of walk through examples of the Mission Revival and Spanish Revival architecture and get your feedback. You know, what are your likes, dislikes in some of these images? We've tried to kind of compile a broad range of examples from each of these. So first, I'm just going to kind of walk through some of the key features. And then we're going to go into some slides that to solicit feedback, I guess, but feel free to jump in, I guess, at any point here. So Mission Revival is characterized by a series of key features, often kind of simpler forms, simpler kind of wall treatments, often kind of lighter or off-white stucco colors. The structure often has gables. That's those kind of angled roof forms that kind of are symmetrical. Arched arcades. There's often most usually red clay tile roofs. It's a common theme between Mission Revival and Spanish Revival. And then there are accents, often some metal accents related to lighting or gates, doorways, maybe a bell tower, but fairly simple forms. Overhanging eaves. And so these are some examples. So if you have specific likes, dislikes about these images that I'm showing, it would be great to get that feedback. And so we've kind of pointed out kind of some of those key features, many repeating what I just kind of went through. This one also has kind of this curved parapet, but it would be great to get any gut reactions that you have.
I'm not a big fan of the curved parapet. I think it's a contrasting line with your standard Mission Revival, and I think it kind of interrupts it. But I don't want us to be so stuffy that we stifle the design, the creative design work of people that want to put up something different, put up something that has something noteworthy about it. I don't want all our buildings to be the same. So, although the parapet on this picture has a gentle slope on the one in the front and then something more ornate on the one behind. And in truth, I think it's the gentle one that I think, if I don't like having them both on the same building. I think that's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Okay.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, and for me, it would depend on what type of building is being constructed, as to how you want to incorporate certain things in. If it's a gas station, then it's going to look a little bit differently versus considering what we already have in the community. Say it's Starbucks is not really a good example, but something different that we don't have based on the landscaping that's available in the community. If it's a building that's on the main strip, like on Moulton Parkway or El Toro Road, at this intersection where most of our traffic is, while there's something to be said about the specific design, depending on what it is, that particular business is going to want their who they are to be part of the design. So like Cynthia said, not everything looking alike, but reflecting the philosophy of the business.
I think what we found with the meeting, and here's where it gets tricky, and I admire you're tackling these kind of jobs because they are tough. I'm not bothered by seeing this general group. That I see it as the general picture, and I don't look at each little individual any more than I look at one window on a building. I kind of look at the building. Frank Lloyd Wright's idea on architecture was not that you build a building that everybody stares at. You fit into the surroundings, into the environment. And that is really kind of what I think our meeting came back with, that we have somebody who's making a statement, and we have a lot of complaints about it, that it's not fitting in. And there are a lot of trees missing, by the way, that I don't know that were removed. I think there are at least 4 trees that need to be, which I'm sure will be put back, but they're not there now. So when we look at these, whether anybody likes it, I can go either way. None of these particularly say they have to be the same. Everything doesn't have to be the same, but what you want to avoid, and it's hard to do, to put this into a picture, and that is you don't want this architecture that doesn't age well. Then you're stuck with these buildings that look like the devil. And I can tell you, if you want to see the difference, drive up to Cypress. I was driving in that general area on my way to Los Alamitos, I think, and I thought, boy, I knew when I was in one city or the other, all of a sudden there's this jarring look. There's nothing. I mean, it's cheap looking. Cypress looked good, and it had a lot of trees. Everything's looking great, and all of a sudden I'm looking like, I don't want to live in a city like this. Look how this looks. This doesn't look tasteful at all. Everything doesn't look the same, but it should have a feel for it, that things went together, they're thought. It's not some wild character, an architect who wanted to do his thing. We don't want that guy. If that guy wants to be creative, go do it, because we're stuck with some of those buildings already. And a tasteful person makes sure that they fit into the whole thing. They're not making their statement suddenly any more than we're going to show up today wearing bell bottoms and a crazy vest. We're not going to dress like that now because we don't dress that way. It looked okay then, but we now look back and say that looks like the devil, and that's what we don't want. So
Well,
that's your challenge, is to lead us down that path. How do we get there?
I'm just going to speak to people, not everybody thinks that the bell bottoms were a complete flop. So and this came out in the meeting as well. There was 2 people that said that they were okay. They didn't want everything looking the same, that they wanted some variety. Mm-hmm. And I don't want us to shoot ourselves in the foot into thinking that something, like you said, didn't age well. Well, that's like in the eyes of the beholder. It may not have aged well to some of us at a certain generation, but others of us who have a broader view, maybe it did age well, and maybe it just didn't age well according to how I thought it should have aged. But that I don't think that's all the way up to us to decide that it didn't age well, because it may have, and we just didn't like it.
Can I ask oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, and then I'll ask the question.
I love the arches in both the Spanish Revival and
Your
Mission
mic is not
Revival.
on. I can't hear you.
I think you may just need to move it closer to you.
I thought you said that
But
19 was, no, you said Clubhouse 2 was your favorite.
Okay, hang on. Let me just.
Yeah, there's one building in here under Spanish Revival that has arches, and the building is beautiful, but it has like candy cane striped arches. And I think arches are beautiful when they have maybe a darker color on the inside, but not rainbow colored like this is, stripes.
I agree.
Okay.
So that was the
are we
only
able to
thing
move
that I
forward
didn't
then?
like. I like everything.
You're talking about this one.
Yep, that's
Yep.
the one.
Yeah.
It's got a Moroccan
Fair,
arch
but
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit here.
And
Can
I did say Clubhouse 2 was my favorite, and that's my personal favorite. But that doesn't mean that I was not, open to some other possibilities as well.
Can I ask a specific question about this one? When I look at this, I think generally these features consistent with what we've talked about. Again, the curved parapet I think you see some examples throughout this slide deck of things that might be a little too much versus a little less. So I think that we can have some internal discussions about allowing for some curvature, but maybe not dramatic,
Right.
ostentatious curvature. The one thing about this image that I don't believe exists anywhere else in Laguna Woods that I wanted your opinion on was the awning.
Yeah, I
To me,
didn't
the
like
awning
the
is
awning.
very different from what we have currently, but if there's no particular strong opinion on it, it is an element of Mission Revival architecture, but is it an element that you would be open to seeing on buildings, I guess is my question.
I found the awnings a little jarring when I looked at them. I think they would be better if they were the same, if they echoed the color of the roof.
That's it, yeah. Maybe you're right,
Otherwise,
yeah.
I mean, we live in Southern California, so awnings can be an important thing to
Yeah.
have.
Good point.
So I wouldn't
yeah.
want to necessarily rule them out, but I think they would blend better if they echoed the roof color.
I think you're right, yeah, because they look dated, don't they? To me, they look, like it's an old photo, but I think you're right, if they weren't, it may be the difference in the design. But it's not, it doesn't bother me a heck of a lot, but I get it.
So maybe we can kind of point some of those things out. This one has kind of more ornate detailing around the window, that trim.
Right,
And
right.
especially the bold orange, it kind of goes back to the Moroccan, the Moorish look.
Is there anything anybody has strong feelings about on this image? One of the things that's maybe different in this than some of the other ones is the window panes themselves, right? They have this kind of like teal, bluish kind of color in there. We've, I think, generally talked about these architectural styles as being kind of earth tones, beige type of
Yes,
colors.
yes.
Are you comfortable with the kind of contrasting accent color like this? Or would this building look better to you if those windows were dark bronze, brown, black, the more traditional colors?
To me,
Pardon me, one of the things that happened, and you live in the towers, but the towers spent tons of money trying to change their building, and it didn't age well. And everybody saw that it didn't age well. They spent a lot of money. Finally put that wood floor in. It really helped when they changed the floor, but they spent a lot of money each year trying to do something because everything was too heavy. And it's not just my opinion. They were having trouble. People weren't finding it attractive. And so they spent a lot of money. They kept bringing in people and redoing things, and they finally had to tackle the big ones. And the big ones in their case were the flooring, which was the flooring that you didn't like, and you were complaining about the walkers at the up at
tile?
at the Wells Fargo. They changed it interior-wise, but they didn't take it all out. But in the towers, I think that is a perfect example of something that didn't age well. And they were trying to it was too dark, it was very dated, and when you went in there, you just felt like you were in an old, dark building. And they kept working and working at it and slowly changing the elements. And I don't know, have you been in that building? It's one you might want to look at, and look at the old pictures, because that's precisely what I'm talking about. Something that's dated isn't one person's opinion. People feel it. They feel like, there's something about this place, and particularly lack of light today in a building probably is the first thing that'll really hit you. I see you nodding your head. Can you give an example? Because that's something you immediately see when something's very dated, it's very dark, and we don't expect dark today.
But are we talking interior or
Talking
exterior?
interior,
We're
and
talking,
I'm talking even, it would be difficult to change the exterior. You could do like that false front they did. You can't, in fact, they did do something at the towers on that too. I noticed they put your little, by just putting your cool stands, pickup stands out front, that changed the look too, because you don't look up at the big building, your eyes kept low, and it's kept by those two stands. So I think that's a perfect building that echoes what I'm talking about, that got dated, and the work and the money that they had to spend on it to try to change it into something.
okay, I need a point of clarification. Are we talking exterior design
This
or
would just pertain to exterior.
exterior?
But even what I just mentioned, the two coolant stands out front, that are protective. Do you notice, how long have you lived there? Have they made these changes since you've been there, or did they occur earlier?
Earlier, yeah.
Earlier?
Earlier,
Okay,
yeah,
so
I
you
don't
didn't
know.
see it then.
Go ahead.
I think the Mission Revival and Spanish Revival would work really well. However, I happen to love colors. I think we should be a little bit more open in terms of giving choices instead of going everything beige, dark, because just because the building is older, that doesn't mean that we have to make it so dark. And bringing more colors, giving more choices of colors, I don't think they'll go crazy over it, but adding more characters as well, as long as it doesn't go to a contemporary extent. Because, when that comes, we will know whether it's excessive. But I think having some more choices of colors would bring more interesting things to the city.
Okay.
I'm with Pearl. I think this teal, I think the concept of adding touches of color is a good thing.
Yeah, the accents.
There's another one that has a blue mosaic inside an archway.
The tile work,
which-
yeah.
Which
Yeah,
looks,
that's fun, yeah.
maybe, it looks kind of Moorish.
That
The
looks
trouble
good.
I have with this one is the combination of the teal and the carrot. I'm not sure what color that is, but it looks like carrot to me. And I think that's a little too bold and a little too busy and a little too much of a mix. But I do think we should allow some color accents that are not earth tones.
Okay.
Okay.
Next.
So this one includes some metal accents. It obviously has that curved parapet, and the quatrefoil windows that are kind of accent pieces.
I like the quatrefoil windows because they're very mission-y, but the parapet can get overwhelming.
It looks a little far out.
It looks like a movie
Look
theater
far out.
from the
Well,
50s.
there's an example again, the San Sebastian, and I hate to bring up the towers again. The towers didn't age well, the San Sebastian did. And just look at the difference, and you have to point out why is that, because I'm not an architect, but I can tell you there is a big difference. And they had to work at it to try to change it, and yet you know where the San Sebastian is? The apartment building?
That was one.
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
ones
yeah.
we
Yes.
Okay. It's not exactly that you're saying, oh, we want everybody to look like the San Sebastian. No. San Sebastian has the qualities, and I'm having a hard time getting this across. There are things that have quality look to them and others that just don't cut it. They kind of skate by trendy-wise, but then time goes on and can you describe what
But I think
contributes to that?
I think part of that is that while both of those are big buildings,
Right.
I mean, the towers are obviously taller; they have
Right.
height.
Multi-story.
San Sebastian has kind of more bulk,
Right.
But the kind of articulation of the facade of San Sebastian is at a much more personal scale.
Now you're getting to what I'm trying to articulate.
Yeah,
'cause
and so it
we're
allows us as kind of humans to relate
Yep.
a little more
Yep.
comfortably to the building, even though it is, I mean, it's not as tall, but it is massive in terms of kind of length and general size.
Right. Okay, thank you. And I think that was maybe I wasn't sure what the problem was because I would go and I'd see they'd done something different and I think, why is it not getting there? And I saw the floor problem and I saw some of these other things, but what you're saying is the personal feel of the building. It is very obvious and some buildings just lacked it and it's kind of hard to go back.
And so that's
do
why
it.
in some of the kind of example slides that I showed earlier, we talked about kind of building massing and articulation, and kind of breaking down the scale of the building can be just as important as some of these stylistic details.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for then, a general thing. I'm not being specific. I don't want to dictate colors, do all kinds of things. When we get through, we want to have a building that fits the community and doesn't have this cheap look that's garish. Thank you.
Is there, the columns here or the arcade, the columns on the arcade are articulated in a way that kind of busies up the structure, both with the horizontal line
Yep,
above
has
head
that
height
pediment line.
and with the, I'll say, the pedestal finish down at the ground. I prefer simpler lines.
Okay.
So this would, just to kind of clarify, this would look better to you if the arches were more like city halls, where it's a little bit more traditional, straighter, they don't have the
More basic.
detailing at the top. And okay.
I don't want to be stuffy, but I want to be clean.
It's not clean, yeah, in a way too, it seems.
Okay. So this probably has some of those same features, right? It has a little bit busier columns.
Yeah, but for a
Yeah.
theater, it's okay. Looks like a movie palace.
Yeah, more expressive.
I don't mind it so much on this one. Maybe it's because it's a bigger scale.
It's not so much difference in color too, if you notice, and it's lighter. The other
Yeah.
one was darker. It was bland. There was a bland look to it.
Yeah, and this is sort of what I was alluding to, depending on what the business is. Like this is absolutely seems perfect for a post office building, but you know, maybe not so much for something else. Like maybe, well, even a restaurant it might be okay, but for purpose of the post office, this is great.
So these photos just try to focus on some of those elements that we might also kind of pull out, here roofs. I think we've talked about some of those parapet forms.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan of parapets.
Okay.
These arches in the top center are less rounded, but still, I think, in keeping.
Okay.
They're in the general
It gives,
category.
yeah, it allows some variety,
Okay. So the full kind of half arc might not be
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah.
and I would embrace that.
Yeah. And you can even see that on the lower right, a little, or lower left, sorry, in the kind of the bottom has that kind of lower arch that the half rounds are up above, but the combo works okay.
And on the right, those kinds of awnings look like they would be fine.
Right. Those are the ones that would be more color matched to the roof.
And that's your point. They aren't striped. They're the same as the roof. So it they don't jump out and
Does
busy it up.
anyone,
But
for the other kind of difference with the arches here, this one in the top right has the tile detail around it. No issue with the tile detail, or thoughts on the tile detail?
I think it's in keeping with allowing color accents, as long as it's not that huge stuff.
Yeah, not in competition with the
Okay
eyes.
with tile over the
Okay.
arch.
And that upper right image also has teal windows, but not
see that.
contrasting with that kind of orange color.
And there's not so many of them. The other building
Yeah.
had a lot of windows, and a lot of cross-hatching in each one of them.
Do you have thoughts, or does it not matter to you at all? Like looking at these the two in the bottom left, or the center and the left. This one, the metal accents are straight. This one, the railing has kind of a curve at the bottom. Does the curve bother anybody, or is
I
that
prefer
also?
straight.
Straight. I would. go with
I
straight.
don't think I would care one way or the other.
See,
Depend on the
that building
I guess.
has both straight and curved, because they're straight on the stairwell and curved on the balcony, so it just mixes it up more, adds more busyness.
Okay.
There's some blue tile.
Yeah. So in Mission Revival, often kind of the lighter stucco colors, but yeah, use of tile, some accent, darker tones.
You know, I see that everybody is putting in, I'm sure there's a term for it, the ridge that's this high on the column.
You're talking this, right?
That right there, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those come and go.
And if everybody
you know.
does it, then I guess it's okay.
I don't care either way. Some can do it, some not, I don't care. Those come and go, I've seen those.
I guess I wouldn't want to eliminate the possibility.
Yeah, let them do what they want. That doesn't matter. That's just a detail. Though I thought we weren't working on details because details we don't want to limit people. We're trying to say the general idea. So we won't say you can have it this and you can't have it that. We're not saying that.
I think if there are things that
Thought.
you very much dislike, we should tell them that you dislike them. But if you're okay, generally speaking, with details, then I don't think we need to get into extreme.
Yeah, let people
you know,
make their decision. That gives them their.
Can I ask a question on the colors? So these all show light colors, right? When we were on this slide, there were some
It's drab, isn't it?
thoughts. Is it that it's too dark, or it's too all the same, or what don't you like about the coloring of the building?
I prefer it all the same.
There's something about that building that looks very drab to me, but I'm not, is it the color? Why don't you tell us? What's going on there? You're the architect.
I think it's the color. I
Okay.
think, the other buildings that have the lighter colored stucco, that creates a little more contrast with the darker roof.
Maybe
Oh, that's probably true, right.
there's too much gray in it, and it's not
Yeah,
warm
maybe,
enough.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because if we just talk about earth tones, right? Things like this, to me, it has like a very muddy vibe to it, but it's
Yes.
arguably an earth tone, right? So if there are earth tones that you like that are maybe on the lighter side of the spectrum, then we want to call that out as opposed to, and I think maybe the contrast with the roof is a good way to phrase it. So it's not like we're outlawing particular swaths of colors. We just want to have some visual interest so it doesn't all look the same. Okay.
How about if you just go back one, the smoothness or roughness of the stucco? I think that was something that we had heard at one point. Are there any kind of preferences on type of stucco?
What does that do to building costs? Does it
Either one
matter?
is okay with me.
Smooth stucco is harder. It's more labor and kind of higher
Then
craftsmanship.
Yeah, I don't have strong feelings, but if we're going to be telling people they have to spend more money on their stucco, then I'm against it, because do what works. You wouldn't notice. When it's painted, you don't notice. I like the smooth, but I think there is a lot of labor. I think we found that with, I feel like we found that problem with 19, but I don't remember.
I think we should allow either one.
I agree. I do too.
Okay.
So these are some of the decorative accents.
We haven't really talked about domes. How do we feel about domes?
I'm good with domes, I'm good with bell towers.
Yeah, it all works.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to back up to the red clay tile vents on the previous slide, on the lower right. I'm good with those. You could put a quatrefoil window in there, or you could put those in there.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so Spanish Revival, a little bit more expressive, often kind of more of a mix of tones. This does introduce often a little bit more play on color, but also many similar elements to Mission Revival, right? You still have the red clay tile roof, stucco walls, arches, though there might be more detail added to those arched entries.
Oh, there's one of those candy cane doors on the corner.
Does the candy cane arch work here, or is it still a problem?
Still a problem.
Still a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't care.
This is pretty monochromatic. When you talked about articulation on a personal scale,
Yeah, this is definitely a little more mass.
yeah.
Yeah.
This to me is like the old school government buildings, right? Where it's like monolithic and
Yeah, it's trying to be grand in scale.
And would there ever be a point, I don't know, where a new constructed building could potentially be 1, 2, 3 stories?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Particularly, I mean,
In today's market.
yeah, I mean,
California rules.
in the commercial sector, it's probably far less likely, but in residential properties, because of what we were required to zone for,
79, Prop
yeah,
79.
your housing element in certain places would allow buildings to be like 5 or 6 stories tall.
In our city here.
Now they're not.
Like-
We took some care to set them away from existing residential areas and things.
Okay.
But yes, the reality is that it could get that tall. I think what we imagine happening, and this is getting down the road a little bit, but once we establish design standards for the commercial sector, I think at that point it makes sense to double back and do the same for the residential sector, not for necessarily existing residential development, but if you have a housing element project that comes in and somebody's building a 4 or 5 story residential building, my suspicion is that you will probably want it to look more like what we're talking about today and less like a modernist cube. And so I think we need to address that at some point. But that's where I see more of stuff this scale. I'm hard pressed, other than maybe like office buildings might still be a little bit taller, but
Okay.
market's kind of saturated in that right now. So
Yeah, I was just wondering about that. Okay.
Terracotta paving. Considering what, I'm looking at the terracotta paving tiles right smack in the middle. Considering that we have so many people using walkers and canes and everything else, do we want to simply say that you can't put that in your common walkways?
you're talking about like, because when it rains or when things fall on it, it gets slippery,
And
right?
because it's
Slides them is the
lumpy,
problem, yeah.
and
Oh,
it's
okay.
hard to move your little tiny wheeled walkers across.
So it's more the grout lines and less the,
No, those tile were uneven.
Yeah, I'm in favor of terracotta underfoot. I'm just
Yeah.
want it to be smooth for
Can we
accessibility.
do that for ADA?
Mhm.
Okay, because that is one. It's very difficult to move a walker on it when things are going up and down. That get the little things get down in the grooves, you know.
yeah.
yeah.
And I will revoice my concern with curved balconies. I think on this, on a balcony scale, they're more ornate than I prefer. Maybe on a window opening and as a smaller accent, I'd be okay with them.
I would expect this up by Huntington Library. One of those houses up there.
How do you feel about either the tile accents under the arched windows on the first floor or this kind of recessed nook thing on either side of the arch?
Oh, you're speaking of the tile at ground level?
Depends on what, you know, in a certain type of building, it makes sense. You wouldn't expect it in a medical building, but you might expect that in somebody who has a little restaurant and a shop, and it wouldn't bother me at all. That's
Yeah.
their taste, and they can do it the way they want.
I'm okay with the tile at the ground level under the arches on the sides.
If people want to recess things into the wall, it looks like these are like little ledges with plants on them or something.
Little niches
Yeah.
for statuary.
Yeah.
It depends on what it's for. If it, you know, if it's a shop, I would find it doesn't, it seems to work.
So this one lighter color, but not white, right?
It's
It kind of has
light.
this yellow tone, and then quite a bit of ornateness around kind of the corner windows.
I'm okay with the balustrades on the semi-balconies there, but I kind of don't like, once again, the candy stripe poles going up the outside of the windows.
You just don't like those candy stripe poles. I'm not a fan of them either, but, yeah, okay.
And this one shows some, looks like by the main entrance as well, towards the lower right.
Down here.
They don't look good there. But I like the color.
Okay.
Wow.
Next slide.
Is it fair to say that, I mean, putting aside, we get the aversion to the candy cane tile, is this busier than what you might have in mind?
It's very busy.
Busy.
It's very busy.
It seems appropriate maybe in San Clemente, I don't know.
Yeah, not for Laguna Woods,
And
so.
the zigzag wood crossing is just like over ornate.
Yeah, I think it's busy it's just a lot for the eyes to take in.
Do you have thoughts on, I know you have verbalized a willingness to consider different kinds of stucco. This has kind of like a lumpy,
Yeah.
that's still okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Those Vegas are the ones that Jay kept talking about. He saved them on you had people who were wanting to repair the buildings here and they had them and they took them out and he stood up and tried to get them back and he is getting them back. So he's trying to maintain the integrity of, otherwise it looks just like a cheap building, you know?
Yeah.
So interesting how that plays out.
Are those the Vegas, are those beams sticking out?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't realize we have some buildings with those.
Yeah, I know. I've
Not a
seen 'em.
huge amount,
Garden
but a few,
villas,
yeah.
yeah.
This makes me think how much I like arches, because there's hardly any on this building. I like the clock tower.
Oh, my goodness.
We have one. Doesn't have a clock out there, does it? But it did have the
Clubhouse one?
what's his name? Her
The
father.
shield.
Crest.
Yeah.
Cortese's crest. Remember, she took that down.
So, Mission Revival has much, typically simpler roof forms, kind of gable roof forms. Spanish Revival definitely includes a wider variety of roof forms, shed roofs, the hip roofs. So any kind of reaction on roof forms?
We have some of those because Clubhouse 1 has something similar to that. It's not precisely, but similar. So we have a number of those kinds of things.
Okay,
And they,
so varieties there is
don't-
okay?
I
Yeah,
don't think
I
we have to,
like-
go ahead.
I like the additional roof lines, as long as it doesn't get too busy. So I don't know how you can write a little bit of extra roof line, but not too much extra roof line.
Well, where it comes back to
That's up to you.
where you were talking about the difference between what makes one age and what doesn't, and that's what we're looking for. We don't want to get into that square of the one building versus the other. I think I used the two examples. They're pretty obvious.
Okay.
It seems like in Spanish Revival, the columns are separate from the arches. They don't just flow into the arches. I'm looking at the top center. And
There's more expressive column there.
say again?
A more expressive column there. I mean, it's
There's
definitely.
a column, and then there's an arch on top of
Yep.
the column, as opposed to the ones we've looked at before, which are just the columns flowing into
Right.
the arches.
Where the bottom one kind of does.
Yeah, the bottom one kind of does,
It does.
and I prefer that look.
The bottom look.
Yeah. And-
I could accept any of them, they don't.
I keep talking about the ridge at the top of the column, and that's kind of an in-between sort of
Right.
thing.
It's kind of like a molding too.
Yeah, if it looks like a molding, I'm okay with it, but I don't like it as a separate supporting column.
Can I ask, on this, there was some aversion in the community workshop to, and we heard a little bit of it today, to that Spanish modernist vibe, which has, among the design characteristics, some of those elongated arches. There are elongated arches shown in the top two and then the bottom left. Are these arches, even though they're elongated, okay because they're maybe more traditional lines as opposed to, I think, what was described in the community workshop as a bit of a Jetsons vibe with the, offset arch? There's nothing about these arches that bothers you, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Doesn't bother me.
Nothing sticks
The
out
arch
for
on the
me.
lower left has a lot of decorative elements over it. so-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we sort of voted.
wrought iron out front and a lot of different material added to it.
Cynthia, to your comment about maybe not liking some of the midpoint detail on the arches,
Yeah.
in the upper left, does the footer detail bother you?
In this case, there's a footer and there's no, what did you call it? The
Like a midpoint? I don't know
midpoint
what word.
articulating thing.
Yeah.
I'll just say generally, my preference is for cleaner lines.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in
And-
general, but we also, I guess I would leave the door open for people to express themselves
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
way
yeah.
that, you know, whatever. If they're doing a little shop and they want to make it kind of cutesy, it's different from you don't expect it in a medical building, but you might in a person who had a flower shop and some other little things there.
Okay. This one?
Yeah. The center one with the,
Over
this.
the little window.
yeah, yeah.
That's very
That
mission-y.
just kind of, just caught my eye. I don't know if I have a strong opinion about it one way or another, but it just
They
caught
have
my
it.
eye.
At Rodrigo's restaurant,
Yeah.
I think they have that on one of them, as I recall, perhaps.
It's
maybe
kind
not.
of a mission-y look.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It just kind of stuck out. I don't have a strong opinion one way or another. I just noticed it.
I know there's concern about the use of wood. How about kind of wood accents? You know, either oftentimes there's wood rafters that are exposed underneath the roof eaves, or the upper middle image kind of has some of those contrasting wood elements.
I'm okay with that. I'm not sure, and just below that, at the first floor entrance, there's kind of a wood overhang, which is weird looking.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion one way or another about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure I like the shutters on the outside like that.
In the lower right here, in the terracotta slide, this door feels nearly overwhelmed by the amount of ceramic around it. And I wonder if there's a way that we could say some ceramic tile is good, but not too much.
Tile is maybe an accent or a detail on the walkway, but not on the whole floor plane type of thing.
Well, it's, no, I'm talking about the decorative
Bottom
tiles
right.
surrounding, on the bottom right picture, the decorative tiles surrounding the door.
Oh, it's not tile. That's like a metal.
Door.
Yeah,
Is it?
it's like a gate. Yeah.
Like a metal gate that's in front of the door?
Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
see. It
Yeah. Sorry, it does. It looks like tile on the screen, but
does, but
yeah, I think
does-
it's a
it
gate
Okay.
of some kind.
Get it.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, look at that lovely arched doorway.
How about things? I mean, I think we've talked about several of these. How about like kind of that stacked brick accents?
The triangular things?
Yeah.
All right,
okay.
there, I'm not particularly fond of it just from looking at it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it if that's what somebody wanted. Especially with the different, it just doesn't look very,
Yeah, the
Pleasing
finish
to
on
my
it's a little rough. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it, yeah.
In the upper right, you've got a pretty ornate balcony. I'm going back to my straight lines, or even curved lines, but there's a lot there.
What do you call it when you have those tiles that are, you see them, they're like vents? what are those called?
They are vents, tile vents.
Are
Yeah,
vents.
yeah.
Okay,
So they're-
I think
they're-
they look fine. They probably
Yeah.
look better than a metal, cheap metal one that you see in our house.
Yeah.
Just curious. They're
Yeah.
just called vents.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
an attic vent.
Okay, thank you.
I'm okay with wood doors.
I don't have any problem with almost anything we've seen, actually.
Okay.
It's in general, you know, I think leaving
There's our
them
Shell
to,
station,
pardon?
coming up to the Shell station.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so in addition to kind of style, there are kind of several other things that we can start to comment on within the objective design standards. And so some of the topics that we've been hearing, either from staff or in the community meeting, was, shade trees in the parking lot, more kind of high visibility for, kind of the bumps, curbs, things like that that are impediments to travel. Appealing and consistent street lighting, potentially introducing cool pavement, extending EV charging stations. And there are already some, kind of regulations on some of these things. So we don't want to duplicate those. But if we want to go above and beyond what's already being required, we can certainly explore that. And then finally, keeping, reducing or eliminating light pollution.
So I think our interest in showing you this slide, we will obviously get more into the weeds on these things, but I think we wanted to confirm that you were okay with us exploring these topics. In some cases, I think we may come back to you and start by sharing what the regulations already are. For instance, for EV charging stations, the building code has pretty extensive requirements on when EV charging is required to be installed. Before we settle on, we want to require it many more places. I want to go through a process of making sure we understand where those requirements already exist. I think light pollution is another one. The building code has some requirements related to confining the rays from lights on properties, but there are plenty of examples of jurisdictions that have gone further than that. I want to start by showing you kind of a range of options for that, and then you can tell us what you're comfortable with. But before we started working on any of this, these topics are generally okay for us to explore. I guess is question number one. And then number two, when we think of safety, comfort, and convenience, are there other types of things, again, mostly dealing with kind of the exterior site planning of a structure, that you want us to take a look at as part of these regulations?
I think we covered, basically the ADA compliance and
Yes, but I also would like to consider that light for animal life. I want to consider that there's some types of lights that are very harmful, even though I know we're using them, and it's actually detrimental. Animals don't look the way we look. Their vision's very different, and they may not see peripheral vision. And so some of the lighting, I'd like to think that at least we're considering it. I'm not saying you move to it, but you consider when it's appropriate and when it fits, we consider that. I would like to see it in there.
Okay.
And I think you can speak probably with the county. I tend to think their biologists
Yeah, there
have some
are a lot of
guidelines, do they?
examples of light regulations. I mean, there are cities that are very, I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but are very dark, and it's by design. But when we're talking about minimizing light pollution, it doesn't necessarily mean that places have to be dark, right? We're talking about being targeted. We're
Right,
talking
it's a
about
factor
being,
we're thinking of.
And so I think we can definitely get into that. Some of these will be easier for us to bring before you and get your 2 cents on. EV charging, for example, is a very straightforward thing that we can talk about where it's already required. Shade trees in parking lots, another one that dovetails in a large extent with cool pavement, but we can talk to you about what our code already requires and then where you might want to go with it.
Chris, on shade trees and pavement, one thing is that every place you plant a tree, you diminish your parking. And some of our sites are parking challenged. And if we incorporate something that requires more trees, then it eliminates more parking places. I happen to like to find a shady place to park, but
I do too.
I realize it's an issue. And when we talk about cool pavement, is that related to water permeable asphalt?
No. So
Have we
you can
thought
have
about
one
that?
without the other. We have recently finished the design drawings for the parking lot rehab here at City Hall. That's on a shelf for a little while until we tackle some of these other pieces, but we've included cool pavement in that. The cool pavement is not permeable to any greater extent than regular pavement. There is permeable pavement, but it requires an assessment of the soil conditions to be able to accommodate the infiltration. You can't just put permeable pavement everywhere and hope that things stay flat and together.
Yeah,
So-
what's underneath it might not be permeable.
Right.
Right.
So, so they're, they can be, I think when I look at this exhibit, the top two and the bottom left, and to a certain extent, the EV charging piece, it's all part of like, we want to consider what the function and utility and comfort of parking lots is, right? So we can tackle all of that together. The light pollution, for the most part, is also going to relate to parking lots. Buildings have some lighting on them, but in general, where you see concerns about spillage or glare or kind of that ambient glow of lighting, you're talking about parking lots and larger areas that kind of create the uplight. The street lighting piece of this is a more complicated one. That comment that came up during the community workshop was really about, I think, to borrow JZMK's thing, the placemaking concept that when you drive into Laguna Woods, one of the ways that you could differentiate Laguna Woods from other cities is by having distinctive decorative street lighting. That would be like the lighting in the medians on Moulton and El Toro. It's not impossible. We'll have some information for you on this, but the city doesn't own those streetlight poles, right? Those are owned by Edison, and so Edison has some ability to allow jurisdictions to select decorative light poles, but they're limited in type. They give you a couple of choices. You can do that at your own cost. So we can bring you some of that information, but I think of these 6, that's the one that's likely to be more difficult to get to where I think the intent of that
I think there's
was.
one other alternative. When I brought this up to you a few years ago when I was in San Diego, and I looked up and I noticed in San Diego they had put like a dolphin
Yeah.
on the pole, and I looked at that and I thought, wow, that's an interesting thing because you do have the laser cut items that you can put up there, and I think it'd be interesting. I happen to have met a person who's a sculptor. It has to be Jay. Jay is also a sculptor in addition to being a painter. And I think it'd be interesting to talk to someone like that about what could you do? Could you add something to your existing poles? You're not going to change everything. 'Cause you don't want to take everything out anyway. And could you do something that's very unique to the city that adds a note that you know when you're in our community, and it's a laser cut thing. It's not something you take down, put up like the banners that are expensive. And anyway, just something to think on.
We can definitely check with Edison on that as well. They have a lot with Edison. So they own the poles, so they have a
Right.
lot of restrictions on what can be done to the
Right.
poles. But we've already started the discussion based on the community workshop about the decorative light poles. We can add to that discussion
Great. Good,
kind of a
good.
permanent fixture on them.
Right.
I don't know offhand whether they would allow it or not, but we can look into that.
Sure.
With regard to the comment that people who show up in this city should automatically know that they're in Laguna Woods, I think that's a little bit pie in the sky. We did have banners that identified us as a city, but we don't now, and maybe we can get a sculpture on the light poles that does. I think the primary purpose of this exercise, though, is to make sure that our residents who are accustomed to a certain style of architecture in the place where they live can see that same familiar style of architecture when they shop in the city. I think people who come zooming through here on El Toro and Moulton Parkway don't pay too much attention to what's going on in the shopping centers.
Actually, we're going to do something with our streets already. We already agreed to it quite some time ago. You may have forgotten, but we said we would put it, when we changed the names of the street, we would put our name up there so we would know we're in the city. So we are doing that to a degree anyway. My intent on it, and I'm the person that brought it up, I saw what happened. If you've ever gone to Barstow on your way to Las Vegas, you know what a truck stop looks like. And a truck stop is not what you want in the center of your city. And that really it caused me to take a look, and other people were commenting to me also. And so I thought, well, I hope I'm being clear that I am not wanting to define anything or limiting somebody other than to do what you described, and I'm not articulating it well, I'll admit it, that your building doesn't look like, I've described the buildings here that have that look, and I've described the buildings a building that ages well looks personal and it feels inviting. And that's one way I can describe it. A building that doesn't has a harsh, like the building we saw that we didn't like the paint on it. It was probably the paint, but the building itself didn't look like it's a building I want to go into particularly. And when we get all through, we want the buildings to look inviting. They're not going to look the same, but they're going to look and have a look about it. And it's not going to look like a truck stop in Barstow. That's the goal. For me, that's my goal.
Again, though, I think that on a place like Moulton and El Toro, it has to be good for what it is. It's a gas station. It has always been a gas station.
But it didn't look like that.
Wait a minute. And I can see using directional lighting so it doesn't spill over and pollute in other places. But I want to feel safe in a gas station. And I don't pull into a gas station because I am invited in. I'm in there because I need gas. And I want to feel safe in there. I want to be able to find my keys if I drop them. So whereas I don't want it to look totally garish, I do want it to be well lit. And having it well lit for people zooming through the city on Moulton and El Toro is important too, because that's what it is. It's a gas station. It's on a library or a post office. So I can see toning down the lights or having them directional. But so I still think it should be bright. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
So I think at this point it would be good to take public comment, if that's the discussion from the council. I think we have good direction here. Drew, do you or your team have any follow-up questions to help us moving forward, or do we think we have what we need?
I think we have a lot of good content. Yeah.
Okay. So then maybe we take public comment, and then there'll be a recommendation to approve the second part of that recommendation.
Okay.
Once we get there.
So we'll open up to public comments. Do we have any? Oh, we have one public.
You're very patient. What a guy.
Oh, Yoli, is the mic on?
Yeah, my name is Dennis Harper. I moved into the woods in November in Portland. I'm a retired architect. I've worked on this kind of stuff a lot in our community up there, city planning, central city plan, neighborhood planning, design review. Anyway, so I was out of the country when you had the work session in January. I participated by Zoom, and I think I wrote Chris some of my comments because I raised my hand on Zoom, didn't get picked. But I heard a lot of comments from the pretty smart number of members of the community at that meeting, expressing more concerns than just architectural styles. There was a concern about urban design and placemaking. There's a concern that there are not enough places for people to go, except for the clubhouses in our community, places to hang out. And then simply, we're surrounded by strip malls, which are really designed for the car. And I came here by bicycle. I sometimes walk. It's not it's not great for walking or biking, for the most part. And our architects are devoted to placemaking, and I'm wondering if the City Council will consider expanding the scope of services to include urban design concerns. I mean, just think of it. We have this Aldi, the shopping mall behind us here. What if it were a nice place to come by on foot, meet your friends, have a glass of wine, go places, casual places, a cafe, beer garden. I just would hope that you wouldn't just limit design services to architectural styles. And this is very, this is very nitpicky what we're talking about today. But think about the bigger picture. What makes a community more livable and more enjoyable for the residents? They really want more places to go and be with people. So I'm hoping you'll expand the vision making of our architects to something more than just facades of buildings. I mean, imagine if they were going to rehab this Aldi's parking lot or this shopping mall here, and they were spending more than 50% of the changing it by more than 50%. What would you then require? Just the facades, or could you expand the urban spaces in front, take a little row of parking out, and create some plazas for people to sit and enjoy themselves? Create places for people to be. I'm hoping you'll you'll expand their work into that area. And then I wanted to tip you off to something. I was watching the last Golden Rain Foundation meeting, and there's a member of the committee there, the board, and he's forming an ad hoc committee to look at developing like 10 acres of undeveloped land behind the community center. I guess it's that it opens up to Moulton Parkway. I guess it'd be zoned commercial. He wants to make money for the Golden Rain Foundation. There should be a money-making operation. And he ticked off immediately. Oh, more medical office buildings. Let's put in some medical office buildings and underground parking. And I thought, oh my God, here's an opportunity, raw land, to suddenly maybe create a place for people that they could use, not a medical office building. I don't know if you're aware of that movement to use land in the city that's not yet been developed, and could we start thinking about a vision for that land, not just have Golden Rain come along and put some office buildings there. So anyway, that's my pitch right now. But
I can
thank you for
briefly
the discussion.
respond.
Yeah, that's their land.
Thank you.
So
It's
a
not our
couple of
land.
things.
Well, I mean, is this not the city of Laguna Woods, and is that not within the city of Laguna
Yeah,
Woods? I mean, does Golden Rain Foundation, they don't have to ask permission to
Well,
Okay, hang on,
I
hang
can
on,
respond.
Carol.
No, okay, here's the
Carol, I'm
question.
gonna let
How
you-
are you going to really administer these rules? Are you going to have a design commission?
Okay, so let me tell you, so this is not a time for dialogue.
Oh, okay.
You have your 3 minutes, and then I'm going to ask the city manager to
okay,
respond.
Okay, very
I
good,
think
thank you.
it's a public speaking. I think he does get to have a,
Well,
Hang on.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First, Mr. Harper, I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the feedback up to this point as well. I think many of those urban design pieces are actually within the scope of this project. We focus today on architectural styles, but this scope does include things like pedestrian and bicycle connectivity. We talked in the community workshop a bit about outdoor dining, outdoor gathering places. All of that fits into the site design piece of this. So I think that much of that will probably be addressed. I think some of what you're talking about, though, verges more on like the zoning side of things, the what goes where piece of it. And so we may not get that far, but my instinct would be to say, and Drew, you can chime in a moment too, but I think we can tackle a lot of that as a part of this project. The Golden Rain Foundation piece, so this topic comes up every so often. It's a bit like Groundhog Day with, in particular, that site. It is ultimately the private property owner who decides how to use their property within the confines of our zoning. And so, for example, that property is not zoned for commercial. So there may be conversations, people can obviously talk about anything that they want about building office buildings or retail or those sorts of things. That would require at this point both a zone change and a general plan amendment to accommodate. So there would be many, many hoops for them to jump through on the city side. We have not been a part of any of those discussions. The ad hoc committee has not reached out to us. That topic
goes on.
comes up
Do you know?
many, many times. That and then the 23-acre site is another often commented on but never actually developed piece of property. So, I would take it with a grain of salt at this point, but if there was a desire to use your word, like monetize that property, any divergence from kind of the open space, recreation facilities, clubhouses, sports facilities, those sorts of things, they would end up before the city council in some form or another. So having said that, Drew, you want to talk a little bit more about the urban design piece
Sure.
of it and how that functions into site planning?
Sure. So we will have, we did focus on architectural styles today. We do often include a section called site design. We didn't go over that very much today. We tend to find that it's not something that many of the public gets very interested in, but I would highly encourage you to look at that when the public review draft comes out, and it would be great to have your thoughts on that.
The next session, you'll be showing that?
Yeah, so the next session, we'll release a public review draft of the document, so you'll have that in advance for review, and then the next section will kind of walk through the document in more detail. And so that section does include pedestrian bicycle access. We often also talk about any kind of public space requirements. And so I think that's kind of what you're getting at. Could there be extra, actual pedestrian space in a development? And so we may have minimum requirements, especially we often have kind of a 2-acre minimum. So if it's a larger site, we want that to play a more public role in the urban fabric of a place.
If not, then public comments are closed.
Yeah.
Close public
If there's any
comment.
additional city council discussion, you can have that now. Otherwise, I think we have what we need and our recommendation at this.
You need a motion for the,
I do, so I'll put it back up on the screen for you. I won't read it again unless somebody wants me to, but the second part of the recommendation on the agenda is to waive those competitive bidding procedures to allow our work with JZMK to continue. So we have a motion
Except
from
the-
Councilmember Moore.
I'm sorry, what is your?
Number 2 on there.
JZMK.
Okay, I'll second that.
So thank you. It's been moved in second. All in favor? All. No opposed, so recommendation carries.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next,
Right, thanks for taking the time to sit there and we've had good turnout. I thought we had good
I
turnout.
thought we've had very,
the workshop was
Who
great.
were interested previously. Yeah,
yeah.
good. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you,
Thank-
Mr. Harper.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
thank you for coming.
Yeah, watch the drivers here.
The next item, I do believe we have a couple of city council reports that we're going to go through, right? The Orange County Fire Authority, are we going to show them?
Yes, I felt bad after the last meeting not being able to get the sound to cooperate, and then discovered it's a Zoom glitch, that the fix has nothing to do with the problem. So I felt a little less crazy not being able to troubleshoot it last week. But yes, there was a video that Councilmember Horn wanted to play that we'll be able to play now.
Hi, I'm Captain Greg Barta, and this is the OCFA Quarterly Size Up.
Serving Orange County from the canyons to the coast. The OCFA is your all-hazard fire department, and this is the Quarterly Size Up.
In the quarter covering November, December, and January, your OCFA firefighters responded to 41,886 calls.
Wow.
To break it down, that's 502 fires, 11,467 all-hazard calls, such as traffic collisions, remote rescues, hazardous materials calls, and many others, and 29,917 EMS calls. Let's take a closer look at a few of the calls we responded to last quarter that highlight the all-hazard response capability of the OCFA. On November 12th, at approximately 10:43 a.m., OCFA crews from Station 19 in the city of Lake Forest responded to a report of a bicyclist down along Aliso Creek.
Wow.
Upon arrival, firefighters located the patient approximately 15 feet down an embankment within the creek channel, suffering from critical injuries. Due to the patient's location and injuries, the incident was upgraded to a technical rescue. Firefighters provided advanced medical care while simultaneously deploying a rope rescue system to safely extricate the patient from the channel. The victim was successfully rescued and transported to a local trauma center for further treatment. On December 18th at approximately 7:50 p.m., OCFA firefighters responded to a reported structure fire in the city of Aliso Viejo. Upon arrival, crews found a 2-story condominium complex with heavy fire showing through the roof. 2 units were fully involved, with 4 adjacent units immediately threatened. Firefighters launched a coordinated multi-alarm fire attack, quickly knocking down the flames and preventing further spread. The fire was ultimately limited to 3 units. During suppression efforts, crews also rescued 3 dogs from inside the building. On January 4th at approximately 12:26 p.m., OCFA firefighters responded to a report of a man trapped in cold, fast-moving water within a storm channel near Bolsa Avenue and Golden West Street in the city of Westminster. Upon arrival, crews located the man clinging to a section of a culvert as swift water rushed past him.
Wow.
First arriving firefighters quickly lowered inflated fire hoses into the channel as a safety measure in the event the victim lost his grip. Crews then positioned an aerial ladder, allowing technical rescue firefighters to lower a rescuer, secure the victim, and raise him to safety. Firefighter paramedics evaluated the victim on scene before transporting him to a local hospital for further medical assessment. On January 5th at approximately 6:03 a.m., OCFA crews responded to a reported rock slide along the San Clemente Beach Trail, located south of the San Clemente Pier. Upon arrival, firefighters assessed the scene and confirmed there was no damage to nor immediate threat to homes located on the bluff above the trail. OCFA deployed 3 urban search and rescue canine teams as a precautionary measure to ensure no victims were involved. On January 10th at approximately 1:58 p.m., OCFA firefighters responded to a report of an injured hiker following a significant fall at Black Star Falls. Due to the remote terrain and the patient's condition, OCFA's air operations team was requested to conduct a high-risk aerial rescue. Battling extreme wind conditions, an OCFA Firehawk helicopter was skillfully maneuvered into position, allowing 2 rescue medics to be lowered to the patient. The flight crew maintained a steady hover in challenging conditions while the medics secured the victim, who was in critical condition, before safely hoisting both the patient and a rescuer to safety. While airborne, OCFA crews provided critical, life-saving medical care as the patient was transported to a local trauma center for further treatment. On November 4th, Fire Station 58 in Ladera Ranch welcomed Stacy and her family for a special reunion with the OCFA crews who saved her life. On Valentine's Day, Stacy suffered sudden cardiac arrest at her Ladera Ranch home. Her husband called 911 and our dispatcher guided him through CPR until firefighters arrived to provide advanced life-saving care and transport to the hospital. For OCFA personnel, meeting Stacy and her family was a powerful reminder of the impact of teamwork, training, and compassion. This brings us to Community Corner. Last quarter, we were involved in 257 scheduled community events, such as school visits, station tours, car seat installations, and other special requests. This doesn't even include the daily spur-of-the-moment interactions occurring countless times each day throughout the county. Here are a few of the events we thought we would shed a little more light on. Our annual Spark of Love toy drive was another incredible success. From November through Christmas Eve, our crews and community worked together with one goal: make sure every child experiences the joy of the holidays. Thanks to your generosity, more than 30,000 toys were collected and delivered to families in need. On Saturday, January 17th, 2026, OCFA partnered with the American Red Cross in Santa Ana for a community smoke alarm installation event. Now in its 10th year, this life-saving partnership continues to improve home fire safety by ensuring families have working smoke alarms. With the help of more than 100 volunteers from OCFA, the American Red Cross, and Santa Ana College, over 300 smoke alarms were installed, providing critical early warning and helping keep our community safe. Well, that concludes this episode of the OCFA Quarterly Size It. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next quarter.
Take a breath, help is on the way.
Thank you, Chris. And it's always so moving every month at our board meetings to have the people that were rescued come in to thank the firefighters, and they get a little plaque and pictures taken with the chief and everything. So, and you'll see a lot of these people at our open house on March 14th. You should really come and bring your grandkids. It'll be a wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another report, the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control.
Yes, we had a open house planned on the 19th of February, and due to the heavy rain, everything was canceled. So we'll have it sometime in a very soon near future. During our meeting, we recognized the outgoing trustees and also recognized trustees who had served 5 years. There were 2 of them that were recognized. And staff also gave a presentation of 2025 year in review. And also the district council gave a presentation entitled Trustee Roles and Responsibilities. And there were staff presentation updating the vector activity in Orange County, update the operation activity, and update the outreach activity in Orange County. And we also received the fiscal year 2026 and 27 budget preparation schedule. And there were a special guest in our meeting who is a student of California High School Business Academy. She was able to spend the day learning different roles within government and was able to attend our meeting to learn about the special district governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other reports or comments from council? None? No other. The next item is a closed session, and we do not have a closed session scheduled for today. So with that being said, this meeting is adjourned until our next regular meeting date, which will be March 18th, 2026 at 2 p.m. right here in the chamber.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
We did.